Hello everybody, this is another edition of the Freelance Teacher videocast while I'm driving. And because the sun is going down, the glare in the back doesn't let you see my face as well as we normally do. Now I know many of you are inserting your own punchline after that comment, but that's why you see what you see. And when this exit ramp passes, you'll see we go back to sun glare, and that's how it's going to be for the next 20 minutes or so. But I wanted to talk to you about my email newsletter results. I sent out my second email newsletter. I'll have to leave you guys the link down below. The fans are clamoring for it, of course, and I have no problem adding you to the list. That's an easy one. Let me know. But I sent out an email that was titled "A School That Has No Schedule." And I wrote a short email newsletter about the Sudbury School. Now, the original Sudbury School is in Massachusetts. And it's a physical building. It's not like homeschooling or unschooling. Those are worthwhile things to talk about and to research. Depending upon you and your child and your situation, they're viable options. But I decided to kind of get into this thing with my email list gently and talk about the Sudbury School, which is a private school. They charge tuition. They don't charge a lot, but they charge tuition. They have a school. There are teachers and specialists on campus. But there is no schedule. What I mean is, a schedule does not get made by anybody in the building. It doesn't get made by an administrator, if there are even administrators. I'm not even sure there are. No schedule gets created by the student or a teacher. There is no schedule. You show up at the building every morning and you leave every afternoon, and you, the student, you do whatever it is that you want to do. Now, I was talking to somebody about this, and he had a hard time figuring it out. Well, what do you mean there's no schedule? If they go to the music, then that's on the schedule. And I said, yes, but if they go to the music room or the art room or the common area or the wood shop or the playground or the video game room or any of these places, they go when they please. They don't go because they were told to go because the schedule was written for them or even by them. There's no predetermined schedule. And people have a hard time figuring that out. Why? Because everybody has been indoctrinated into the idea that people learn and only learn or learn best in a school setting. And that just simply isn't true. How are people going to learn? How do people learn in general? And the Sudbury School does something elegant in its simplicity, and it says, okay, well, children learn at their own speed. They learn exceedingly quickly when they're interested in a topic, and they can learn on their own with some guidance, lots of guidance, or sometimes with no guidance. And every parent listening to this knows exactly what I'm talking about, because your child learned things without taking a single class. Learned how to talk. You didn't have your child in school from ages 0 to 2, but most 2-year-olds are talking. Even if it's baby talk, they're able to communicate their thoughts and sound out words using their mouth and tongue and lips and all this teeth, and able to they've figured out how to converse using spoken language and have not taken a single class. And many parents, myself included, our girls speak 2 languages. And not only did they not have a class, they picked up English and Spanish. So our That was intentional on our part, but our children learned languages, and they learned how to speak. They learned how to read, all before going to school. And it's funny how people cling to almost like they cling to their faith. Because what happens is, it's like, well, yeah, that's all stuff that everybody learns, and then you need school. Really? There was practically no school in the world until Prussia, the Kingdom of Prussia, and then the United States and Britain, to some degree, picked it up in the 1800s, particularly heavily in the late 1800s. That's 130 years ago. So you have thousands of years of recorded human history and basically no organized school. And the evidence is right in front of you. The old stories about various U.S. presidents, Thomas Edison, Madam C.J. Walker, Malcolm X learning in prison, for Christ's sake. Malcolm X learned about life and languages and the world and how to comport himself in jail. Should we send students to jail because Malcolm X learned a lot in prison, including how to read? My point is, people learn how to learn. People learn things. They learn facts. They learn social skills. They learn engineering. People learn in so many different ways, it isn't even funny. One of the few things that the education establishment gets right is that people learn in varied and diverse ways. And here's the thing. For all the blue-haired social justice warrior, liberal progressive teachers out there screaming about how they're here for the children, and they hate racists, and they hate Donald Trump, and I'm here for the children, and we need to educate the youth, and progressive values are where it's at, and all this nonsense. What those people don't understand is that then their children, or they themselves, go to a high school, junior high school, university, and you're not allowed to deviate from the script. You're not allowed to learn in a different way. You're not allowed to learn different things. Go to college and try to learn a lot and talk a lot about the Christian Western civilization and free market capitalism. And then try to get a degree in economics with that as your base. Good luck. Good luck with that. The university will block you at every turn. God forbid you talk about the wonderful things about Christianity and Western civilization. Go on campus and proselytize that. See what happens. So it's so strange that something right in front of us, that people learn so many different ways, that people are unique and diverse in the way they think and how they pick up information and process it, and at what speed. That they then say, well, go into a school building for 12 years for about 6.5 to 7 hours, 5 days a week, 180 days a year, and learn what you need to learn. Sudbury School says, well, okay, come to the school building and then operate at your own speed. The Sudbury Valley School welcome video is eye-opening because one of the main subjects, one of the main people on the video is a young man who spent his first year of high school basically playing video games and not doing much else. Now, that makes me angry even hearing that, right? If I were spending money, I think it's $7,000 a year to go to Sudbury. Maybe it's $8,000, I'm not sure. But if it were $6 a year and I'm spending that for my child to play video games every day, I would be just living. But here's the thing. somebody had faith in this person, faith in this young man, or faith in the system, faith in Sudbury and their methods, that by the second year this young man was tired of it. And the group that he was a part of, they started exploring different things. They got into music. They got into science. They got into going outside in the backyard of the school and exploring nature. This young man got into engineering and the hard sciences and wound up going through all the battery of exams that allowed him to get into a university where he could study the hard sciences and engineering. This is a person who went to a school that has no schedule. None. And the evidence is right in front of you, because the first argument that people say against it, because remember, they don't, and this is what I've told you guys before, the people to whom I mentioned Sudbury Valley School, they don't say, wow, that's interesting, I'm going to have to look into that. No. They immediately then tell me what's wrong with it and where its flaws are. And they tell me, without doing any research, that, well, those students obviously don't do well on the SAT and the other college entrance exams because they haven't had the structure for it. Now, that happens to be patently untrue. Sudbury students do quite well. They do well on the ACT and the SAT. They do well on what they need to do well, because what they are presented with throughout their years there are that things that they need to overcome. Well, how do I overcome it, and how can I figure it out on my own? And the SAT and the ACT aren't, I mean, they can be complicated depending upon the person, but there's a pattern and there's a way to get through those exams. That's why I get paid to instruct on the ACTs. Well, my last client got a near perfect score on the verbal section of the test. The English section, if you want to be specific. So people don't like hearing their faiths. They don't like hearing that their faith is maybe not so fantastic. I don't mean religious faith. I'm talking about secular faith. You need a school with this number of hours and this number of classes, and that's the only way to do it. And I sent out an email talking about the Sudbury Valley School, which does something, again, very simple. It allows children to learn what they want at their own pace. And young, curious humans can and will learn a ton of material. No questions asked. And I had, for an email, had a very high opening rate. About 30, I think the number is 36% of the people who got my email opened it and read it. And that brings me to my last point. As a young person, most of my listeners are young or younger parents, a few are my age. People want, my listeners and my readers, and yours too, because you should be talking and speaking and writing. They will appreciate useful information. They will appreciate somebody who has an original or even semi-original message from a source they can trust and with information that they can use. Now, I'm not going to move to Massachusetts so my 10-year-old can go to Sudbury Valley School. I would love for her to go there. If we were near it, I would move heaven and earth to see to it that that's where she went. Because she learns her own way, and there's a ton of material there, indoors, outdoors, science, math, music. Specialists are there to help. But as a young person, she wants to learn. She wants to know stuff. Young kids are always asking, why? Why is this the case? What's this all about? And I would send her this, but I'm not going to move to Massachusetts so that my littlest one can go to Sudbury Valley School. My point was that an informed public and informed parents want to know and want affirmation, and they want some backup, some backing to know that what they see is true with their child, that their children are unique and learn in different ways and at different speeds. And you don't have to do things just one way. And so that message got out. Now, I'm new to the email newsletter game. I have to thank the people at Teachable, one of my main sponsors, for this email newsletter and lighting a fire under me to get it going. But that seemed like a high opening rate for an email, and I realized that it was because parents are like, or anyone actually who sees an email says the school with no schedule is thinking, what is this? What on earth is the school with no schedule? That's just ridiculous. How can that be, such a thing be possible? Because we've been trained, as one would train a herd animal, that this is the only way to do it. This is the only way for people to learn, is in a school, which is an institution that was created in Prussia by the people who ruled that kingdom to see to it that they had unthinking, loyal subjects who would run into bullets to see to it that the Prussian Empire maintained its place of power in the European order. There were too many independent thinkers in Prussia, so they started Schule, which said, okay, we are going to hammer into place loyalty, thoughtlessness, and unthinking order following, and we're going to do that by making sure people learn how to follow orders, and it takes about 12 years to hammer that into place, because as, again, any parent or independent thinker knows, especially young people are intensely curious and they want to know all kinds of things, and they ask questions like, why does the emperor have no clothes? Right? They'll ask, why do people buy things they don't need? Why is this person famous? I say things to my 10-year-old a lot, stuff like, I think Abraham Lincoln was one of the worst presidents in United States history. And rather than getting angry, as many of the listeners now are getting angry, he freed the slaves, Lincoln is great, there's a statue of him down in D.C., right? While you're getting angry, every 6-year-old in the country and any independent thinker say, why would you think that? Explain to me why you think Abraham Lincoln is one of the worst presidents of the United States. And I proceed to do so. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Independent thought is priceless. Independent thought doesn't need 7 periods of 45 minutes each of following orders to figure stuff out. Independent thinkers understand that their emotions are not ruling the day. How you feel when I say Abraham Lincoln is one of the worst presidents of the United States is irrelevant. Your job, as every little kid, including my own and many of my teenagers in my charge as an English teacher at Mount Vernon High School, when I tell them what I said to you about Lincoln, they are intensely curious as to why. And they don't need me to explain things. I do, but I always urge, and some people do, I say, look up these things that I'm telling you. And a bunch of them go and they look stuff up. Now Snapchat and Netflix and internet porn and all these other things have ruined the teenage American's mind to some degree, but their minds are too strong to be held back by it totally. This is a phase that will end, I'm sure, with this chaos, but people are curious, and young people especially. So if you're an entrepreneur and you are thinking, well, maybe I should do my own business, how can I run my own business, what should I do? Start off with the rule that has served me well, and give away material for free or for a very low price, and make it useful to people. If you provide something of value, even something as innocuous as some intellectual stimulation as to why Abraham Lincoln is one of the worst presidents of the United States, or what school could possibly exist and not have a schedule. That was a free email. People will see interest in you, and they'll see interest in what you have to say, and they'll see value in you. And if you can do that, in my opinion, that's an extremely valuable place to be. You will learn a lot about yourself and people, and if things work out well, as I hope they do with my internet business and my side hustle, you'll learn about running a business and economics and providing value to customers. And you learn about human nature and all these other things that we like to teach in Schule. So that's really my message to you. I was surprised by that email's open rate. I think 36% is very high. I'm going to ask around with my group at Teachable. But that seems very high. 36% of about 150 people opened the email and read it. So I'm sure it's just because the headline was interesting and then there was valuable information behind it, or at the very least interesting information. So you continue your journey as a learner and as a thinker. And just like I tell everybody, don't take my word for granted. You've got to learn things yourself. And what my last point, I pinky promise, is that schools do a terrible job at teaching independent thought. So try to break away from you waiting for an expert to tell you everything. They can tell you some things, but they can't tell you everything. And find out a lot of information on your own. Start digging and putting the phone down and picking up books or using your computer to search out topics that you have an interest in, and do it that way, rather than waiting for somebody to do it for you, because they won't. That's it for today. Thank you for your patience while I've been driving in the car with the sun glare, and I will talk to you next time. Have a good one.